Adjust your equipment. We are in control. This is Sinister Mysteries. Tonight, we bring you another disturbing case from our files.
Enjoy the rest of the broadcast.
I apologize.
No, that's no. You look. That was exactly like how it was when on Three Beards when I would do the same thing. I would just be like, "Oh crap, nope, wrong one."
Here's what happened. So StreamYard does local recording and then it records us together, but it records each of us separate. So it's this giant box. So you used to hit go live and it would go live. Now this giant box comes, it hides brand. So I had to wait for it to actually go live. So folks, I will get better over time. Now I'm going to have to, if we have to adjust the news lead a little, we will. We'll have to see. You never know how long it takes to go live.
Yeah. That's the time. Yeah. So thanks, Ron. There. Yeah, no, appreciate. Yeah, we've worked really hard. And so I said, Joey, give the plug to our, music. Give the plug for that.
Yeah. So a young student that we know that we've talked about in the past at Berklee College of Music spent a really long time, especially on the second one. The Italians have a word, sprezzatura. Sprezzatura is making the hard look easy. That is a 40-second piece of music that took probably 10, 12 hours to compose because there's a lot of layers, a lot of things to it. So Jay, thank you so much for doing that. And Craig, you found our puppeteer voiceover actor in England.
Through Fiverr is was thing through here, and I'll get the information to Joey so we can give a plug out, for like him if you guys need. But yeah, when we were set out of this thing, it's just kind of, we had an idea. We wanted something that was different. We wanted something that was distinctly ours, and so that we went through several different options, and this one, I found this one, and Joey loved it. I liked it, and we back and forth on the script, and then we sent it over to the guy, and what he does is he actually, that's his hand, he actually does the puppet, he does the voice thing, and then he puts them together, through the green screen, he does the puppet work, and then he puts the background on it afterwards. So that's all the stuff. So one of the things too is if you guys want, I was going to have Joey maybe put it up on YouTube, upload it on YouTube by itself. So that way, so that way people can see it for themselves. But definitely watch it. Stay through the end of the program because we have, there's something at the end of the program too. We have a new outro as well. So
yes, and he's sort of a Walter Cronkite type. But if anybody in the audience, as you get to know the puppet over the course of our episodes, if you come up with I'm usually good at coming up with a good name that reflects like what he is and what he represents. And please, behind me is Alienora. That alien was named by a fan of the show, someone in the chat rooms. So if you guys can come up with a name for our puppet broadcaster who gets interrupted by us, let us know. You'll see.
And next show, this is going to look completely different too. I'm going to remake.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So this will be remade. So we were at Disney the other day, and I picked up. They have a diffuser. It's one of the gargoyles.
Oh, nice.
So that's going to be kind of my centerpiece with stuff, and I have some books and so, yeah. So I'm gonna remaking.
Super cool. A lot is going on. There's something that I want to tell you all, but I'll fold it into a data point rather than just talking about something at the top of the show. Yeah, things will change. They'll change subtly because they have to in the atmosphere that we're in, with AI and all. It has nothing to do with politics. It just has to do with but we'll talk about that. Hello to everyone.
Yes.
50th. I keep wanting to say 50th anniversary show in the sense that if every show
50th show
is an event, it's 50th anniversary, but it's our 50th show. We really appreciate the audience is growing. The feedback is outstanding about our approach, which we try to be as balanced as possible. So there you go. So and this truly, the smiley face murders. Craig,
Yes.
I read 2 books about this 5 years ago. So I was very into it. And going back and looking at all the data again 5 years later, it's amazing how many episodes we have done that could provide an explanation for this. But this almost is urban legend, but we'll touch on those. And the Sons of Sam documentary, I don't know if anybody's watching that on Netflix. That David Berkowitz wasn't the sole killer. It was a whole network, and it ties into a bunch of things. We'll touch on that at the appropriate time there. So glad to see so many people here tonight helping us with our 50th. So yeah, we're gonna talk about, as you can see, the format is different. We're gonna roll that opening and then we're gonna come back. That's the first time you'll see us, so we don't have to go away. So Craig, I got like 4 sentences that sort of set this up.
Go for it.
Just to remind the audience, you and I never communicate nor collaborate on our research. We're really solid on that. So I just want to let you know, I have a couple of cases. Like there were 300 cases. 2 I mentioned in a little bit of detail because it's important to kind of set it up. The rest is like theories, data, this kind of thing. So anyway, the smiley face killer theory is a pattern that college-age men, somewhere between 18 and mid-20s, disappear near or drown in water after a night of drinking. So they're at a bar, they're at a social event. These are young, they're doing well in school, they're dean list types, they're very athletic, they're good looking, they're popular, all these kinds of things. That's the typology. That's really, I think, one of the most important things about this. This has been going on since 1997. By 2013, there were about 85 documented cases or tracked cases. Now there are 300. Seems to be the thing. 2 salient points before I turn it over to Craig. Missing for about 3 weeks. Dead in the water only 3 to 5 days. Sometimes only 48 hours. Very, very strange that they're gone for 3 weeks, but when they show up, there's very little bloating, decomposition. We'll get into some specific cases where we can talk about typology. And oftentimes near these places in proximity is smiley face graffiti, often painted orange instead of the classic yellow. That is the typology. What we're going to unpack tonight is the controversies, the theories. Is this really all connected? Is it random? And we'll unpack that as we go. But Craig, you want to, before I tell them about a couple of really famous cases, do you want to?
Well, that was one of the things, like through the research, like I found, it's like you mentioned the graffiti. That's something, a couple of people that brought this case up, we're going to mention their names as we go through this. They say that there's other graffiti that they're not releasing at this time because they think it'll tip off. I mean, I wish they would, because one, it's like it would help people locate, potentially other, things. I mean, I get it. It's like, but how is it any different than, putting out other MOs? I mean, if we're going to say that the smiley face is, indicative of a potential, why not have something else? Like if it's if there's a star, or if there's some other, things that are with it. But unfortunately, most of the pictures you find, it's really hard when you do your searches to distinguish between the movies and the reality and what's real.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the ones, like the picture behind you, the one I used for the 50, that's not really, I don't think that's one of them. I just found it was just a cool smiley face, but the barricade behind it is one of the actual photos. And that was one, but it was hard. It's hard to find because you get so much stuff that's from the movies. And so when people do the searches, it's like, just because you see, the yellow smile, it's, I said, yeah, it's, you see the mask and stuff. No, there's nothing like this where it's, we've got video of these things. No, all we know is Bob went out drinking. They found him floating in a body of water. That's the thing. That's the majority of of what a lot of these cases are. There's not something where they've got a video of the person being thrown in a car or driven off, and they said they don't. So it's pretty. Some of these ones are pretty crazy.
It is. I want to kind of throw a disclaimer out there to begin. Not only did I want to keep my research to a manageable level, so we don't have to rush. There are films, so there's fictional stuff, like Craig said, that always muddies the waters. And Craig and I are going to, in December, do an episode about how the internet is being flooded with junk information. So you have to be careful there as well. There are also a lot of books. Some of the books are mainstream. They're by detectives. They're by other investigators. Some of the books are horrible. They're written under pseudonyms, riddled with typos. They're before the age of AI, but they almost have that repetitive cut and paste kind of thing. So, and then there's documentaries. There's a whole plethora of documentaries. A couple of famous ones have won awards. We're going to pretty soon talk about some detectives who have been prevalent in this, and they're prevalent in some of the documentaries. So one that even though it started in 1997, this one I believe will give you an idea of the phenomena. A guy named Dakota James. Now, this happened in Pittsburgh. I've spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh. I live not far from Pittsburgh. This was December 15th of 2016. He calls a female friend and he says, quote, "I don't know where I am. I am so cold. Please help me. I'm lost," unquote. And in many of these cases, there are phone calls, there are recorded voicemails with these kinds of chilling things. She checks his phone GPS. So apparently this is a thing. My wife and one of my children are linked on GPS, so they know where each other are all the time. Supposed to be in North Pittsburgh. She sees that he's in South Pittsburgh. She's going to pick him up. She arrives 10 minutes later using the GPS, and she sees him stumbling out of a hotel in Pittsburgh that has a bar. And a black SUV starts approaching him. She screams at him to get his attention. He turns away from the black SUV, which speeds off and gets in her car. As they begin to talk, he's very dazed, but he can't account for 4 hours of bar hopping with coworkers. Seems like he's drugged. Okay, January 25th, 2017. So this is about 40 days later. He disappears after a night of drinking with his coworkers. He's found in the Ohio River 40 days later. He has GHB, which is the date rape drug. Craig, we might get marked for that, right? But GHB is in his system. This is to make people sleepy and forget so you can do stuff with them. We're going to have to really watch. We'll explain a little later. Marks on neck, possibly indicating strangulation. And there are 11 smiley faces spray painted on the Roberto Clemente Bridge. If you know Pittsburgh, you know the Roberto Clemente Bridge. The cops say accidental drowning, despite the fact that there is a dam upstream that would have damaged the body. So the force of the water, the churning, all of that. And there's no decomposition, even though he's been missing for 40 days. Also, 2 days after he went missing, his credit card was used. Some sources say, some people say there was a hit on his PayPal account. Could have been, tied to a bank card or something like that. This is where Craig alluded to some people who are really at the forefront of this research. Detective Kevin Gannon, who really developed this theory. And he's taken a lot of heat for it, man. A lot. As a matter of fact, they tried to character assassinate him at one point. And another detective called Anthony Duarte. They're New York City detectives. They see these patterns embedded on what I just told you, similar victim profiles, the circumstances of the disappearances, and the smiley face graffiti. Craig, I'm just going to summate the typology and then I'm going to hand it
Oh, yeah,
back
no, you're good.
over to you. After a night out with friends, they leave a bar or a party. Sometimes they're banned by bouncers who claim that they are drunk when they're not. People will say he only had a couple drinks and he's like 6'4", like 300 pounds. Doesn't make any sense. But they act drunk even though they haven't imbibed a lot. In the 300 cases, 10% of them, 30, have GHB, which is a depressant. Like I said, we'll just leave it for that way, in their system. Now, the body will naturally produce GHB. So this is one of the ways that law enforcement and forensic pathologists debunk the theory. Over to you, sir.
Well, it was follow like the same thing with the vehicle. I don't know, through your research, did you see the Rolling Stones article by any chance?
I don't think I saw that specific data.
Okay, they so in this one was done May 21st, 2023. They linked it to a TikTok user by the name of let's see, Wax. This is like Ken Wax.
Oh yes,
Wax,
I watched that.
Yeah, and so it kind of it was the same type of thing like what you talked about. He mentioned that in his thing that he had a scary encounter where he came out and, it's like he had somebody pull up in a vehicle wanting to, just basically like, hey, I give you a ride, it's just like out of the blue, and it freaked him out. And so one of the biggest things from this that Kevin and Anthony, I think it's Duarte. It's like Duarte. I can't.
Duarte.
But yeah, Duarte. So one of their things is one of their hypotheses is this is not just like a possibly a singular killer, as this might be multiples. This might be a group. This could be, think like the Manson family. This could be something where there's multiple people where like that scene, like you talked about, this would be the thing, just like what they do with sex trafficking and so is where you have the person that does the initial engagement, that'll do like the distraction, that'll do something like this as the other person swoops in and grabs a kid as the person. So this one, there's possibly somebody in the bar, something like this, picking out the potential victim. And like you said, most of these people are like, I only had a couple of drinks. Well, if you slip in the stuff, they're going to come out like, whoa, and then they go out, the person comes up like, hey, can I give you a ride? And you're like, yeah, I'm not going. They hop in, and then that's when they're never seen again.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. But unfortunately, I was saying, I've yet to come across one where they've actually got video of the person being taken and swooped away. It's just most of the stuff is, unfortunately, is like the anecdotal story where I saw this. I saw, a friend of a friend told me that their friend was almost swooped in by a vehicle. But it's one of those, like the saying goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. When after a while, it doesn't take, like these guys said, it's like, yeah, there's people that want to cast them as these guys are just crazy. This isn't really anything. But, when you have enough things, eventually the coincidences start stacking up and you're like, okay, this, this may not, you may think it doesn't have any connection, but there's all these cases where the same scenario keeps playing out in multiple different areas. It's like the same thing. And so they're either copycats, but I think that's where the police, like when they really shut these things down, is I think that's because they're worried about copycats.
Oh yeah.
And the shows we've done about serial, a lot of the times when they deny, there's nothing here, it's because they don't want information to get out, or they don't want people to start doing the claiming. Because that's one thing. I don't know if people, whenever you watch movies, you see like Mel Gibson saying when he gets up there and talks about the kidnapper and stuff, they don't want that to happen, because then you're going to have just the kooky people go like, I'm a smiley face killer, you can come over here. And it's just the drug addict, drunk guy that always is calling in the stuff. And then it gets muddied, the investigation gets muddied. And so I found on a few of them, I think that's what it is. They're trying to just make it, they don't want the people of these areas to start freaking out.
Yeah.
Kind of like Laura, comment other, okay, Oklahoma, it's like they freak me out. That's exactly part of the reason why they don't want this stuff out, is because then people start getting all panicky, because every time we see a black vehicle pull up, you're going to start getting phone calls, and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't release a lot of those details, unfortunately.
Right. Because there are clusters, and yeah, terrific, Greg. You covered a lot really succinctly. That was terrific. So the smiley face graffiti, you could say this is so incredibly ubiquitous that everywhere you look, there's smiley face graffiti. I don't necessarily see it, even when I'm looking for it. We got to put that out there. I also want to say too, Craig, moving forward, I personally think that Craig and I do a really good job of going, but we need to tell you this about this data. Or we recently had our only two-part episode taken down by YouTube 3 days ago. And we were really painstaking about giving background of the people involved. But the AI algorithms are not seeing that. They're only seeing certain keywords. We were actually accused of inciting violence and perpetrating conspiracy theories. So it was weird. The appeal took all of 7 minutes to turn us down. But anyway, so tying this to larger things, like Craig said, and that's what I was finding out in my research, was reminding me it connects to a lot. Truck driver and railway serial killers, where there is no MO, there is no signature, it's completely random. They think there might be, and again, where do these numbers come from? We don't know, but a network of 250 to 300 truck drivers who engage in. Now, I will say that I talked to a truck driver once who, he's deceased. I think this is okay. I'm not going to name names. He was going down the road and he picked up a dude who had some very potent drugs, and they did them, and the guy wound up dying. He left him at a rest stop because he didn't want to get involved. That's different, but trucks late at night, random person. Okay, so let me give you a little more cluster data here. La Crosse, Wisconsin is a cluster. Pittsburgh is a cluster. New York City is a cluster. Boston is a cluster, with the TD Garden being a cluster within the cluster. Very interesting. 33 cities in 11 states, mainly the East Coast, but like I said, it's Michigan. Chicago is another really big one. Now, Chicago is a notoriously violent, dangerous city, even more so when these clusters jump back up and started happening. Those of you who are familiar with David Paulides' Missing 411 work, which is exhaustive, documentaries, I think at least 5 books about national parks, really weird stuff. You can apply a lot of those kinds of things. I've never done an episode on David's work because he does it, but it's very, very cool. Their phones and wallets are often found well away from the body. Sometimes their eyeglasses are taken off and placed very carefully. This is a parallel with Missing 411. They're often found where upwards of 1,000 people have searched in the weeks that they've been missing. And it doesn't account for tidal flows. It doesn't account for upstream, downstream, all of those kinds of things. So that's some of the other stuff. I want to give you guys another case that Gannon worked on, because it ties to a second one. This was April 7th, 1997. So this is sort of the suspect zero, or case zero. This is the one that really touched it off. The young man was 21 years old, and his name is Patrick McNeil. He was missing 8 weeks after he went missing from a bar. He appeared to be heavily intoxicated. Craig, I believe that there was some CCTV on this one.
Yeah, that's
witnesses.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was going to say that'd be cool.
I asked you something, then.
No, I was looking forward to hearing about this one, because as I said, the ones I looked up, I was like, I could not find anywhere that actually had like video of the person being taken.
Yeah, no, not being taken, but sometimes you'll see them come out of the bar and they're kind of stumbling and look disoriented. Or city cameras will show them. I mean, some of these people walk 4 or 5 miles in cold weather and go in the opposite direction from their house. Witnesses report a car driving slow behind him, and this is shown up in a bunch of cases from witness reports. Then he's found off a pier in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, has the marks on his neck. He has charring on his hands and body, which a forensic expert that the family brought in, well known, they paid him to look at the forensics, 10 years later said that this was probably done by a blowtorch. Okay, this is wow. Okay. Determined accidental drowning because they didn't release that information about the marks and char for 10 years. Now, another guy, Larry Andrews, was found after New Year's Eve 1995. That's when he disappeared. He was found 45 days later. It seems to be between 30 and 45 days. Craig, if we subscribe or we entertain the ritualistic cult kind of stuff, those 30 to 40 days could be significant.
Yeah, and that's now did they release much of the like the decomposition part for a lot of these cases?
I think because they're ongoing investigation. Well, no, because then they call them accidental drowning. So with an accidental drowning, I'm not sure that they'll make that kind of stuff public.
Yeah, because the part that I'd be curious about is to see, because some of these ones where they talked about how the bodies looked like they'd been staged.
Yes.
And so that was one of the things like I'd put in my notes is, was there something else going on with these guys? But the thing is, there's no signs of like abuse, like they've been tortured or anything like that. They just been drowned. So it's really weird how, why during a certain amount of time that they would have been where did they take them, and then why did they drag them, to here and then place them in these things? So that was one of the, I don't know, I probably for me was one of the more disturbing things on the fact that this wasn't just like they grabbed them, they suffocate, they strangle them or something, and then they toss them in the water. It looks like they've been taken somewhere else, and then at a later point they're taken to their final spot.
Yeah.
And so that's
up to 8 weeks, but it seems like between 30 days and 40 days. Now 40 days is very biblical, right?
Yeah.
40 this, 40 that. Okay. Yeah, and then some of the more well-known cases, Gannon has only he co-wrote a book covering 14 cases. So those are the ones that we have the most data on. There are signs of strangulation. One guy was hit in the head. There's a big bruise on the side of his face, which his father saw that the police just wouldn't talk about. He's like, do you see that? There's a massive wound on his head. Also, Craig, it's interesting because they're found in shallow water. And a good number of these guys are athletic. They're swimmers. Really, really strange. Now, let me keep going with McNeil here. So determine accidental drowning, but there are fly larvae in his body. The temperature of the water is too cold for these fly larvae. Plus, it's an indoor, not an outdoor. So you have to have certain conditions that are conducive to indoor as opposed to outdoor. This comes from Gannon, right? The fly larvae, right. Okay. Larry Andrews found, 2 years later, La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is a cluster site. Jeff Geesey, Geesey. Some of the research says that the lividity, so lividity comes into this. When they find the body, how blood has pooled after death becomes really important. It seems that he had been hung upside down for a considerable period of time. And some of the research says that he was drained of his blood. This is an anomaly in the research. Yeah. So are they copycats? Do they have nothing to do with anything? That's what really complicates this.
Real quick. Laura also made a comment, and that was one of the, you were talking right there, I was thinking, what if this, and this is just a what if, people, this isn't through the research, through some of the other shows that we've done, what if this is one of those things these guys are taken and it's not so much that physical experiments are done as the mental type thing, because you can be given the psychedelics, you can be given the stuff, and you could be basically at that point, you've got free guinea pigs. Yeah. The guys are missing. there, nobody knows where to look. You're not there. And then all of a sudden, like you said, once you've gotten to the point you could do all the stuff, then you're like, okay, we're done with them. And then, because that would go to the one guy hanging upside down. Okay, what does the effects happen if we hang somebody upside down for a certain amount? And I said, apparently they die.
Yeah.
It's they. That was thinking out loud here, people. That was not in the research, but yeah, I was just wondering, because I don't know. It's that one, like Joey just said, it's an anomaly. So I don't think this is like some satanic cult that's rounding up guys for sacrifices. I don't get that vibe at all. I get something that this is more. I would be more apt to say this could be like the MK Ultra type thing where people are taken, they're taken somewhere, there's something done to them, and it's easier to do all right, guys, once you dump the bike, you like the marker, and then the guys hop in the van and they drive off.
Right. You can find them on Facebook, and oftentimes when things are controversial, more people look at them. You can find them by searching Montauk, Montauk. On my Facebook or on the Into the Outer Realms. That was our double episode. Craig and I did 3 hours on that. And I can tell you probably 10
incited violence the entire time
of research I did, but that is that kind of thing. That is the MK Ultra kind of hold them, dose them, expose them to things, psychological experiments. And of course, when you're dead, they don't know if you're crazy. If you went
dead
crazy,
men tell no tales.
Right, that's exactly right. So let's see. Chris Jenkins, Minneapolis, 2002, death ruled an accident, but it was reclassified a homicide. In a very low percentage of these cases, they have been investigated as homicides, unsolved. So no one has ever been, that we know of publicly, has ever been arrested. And yes, this was the dude that killed this person that actually looks like a smiley face killer thing. Craig, you mentioned about people claiming, so occult groups. There was let me see here. Yes. So with the Chris Jenkins case, a prisoner told a cellmate that he took part in that. But everywhere from the Manson family to these prison confessions are sometimes not reliable. Somebody just wants to be seen as cool, scary, a hard guy,
Well, yeah, because you're going to have that hardline reporter come in and they want to interview you. Now you've got all this attention, and so yeah, who's going to be able to dispute the fact that because you've got some of these details. And did you see the one about Dakota James? Did you see that? Did you look at that case? We
opened with Dakota James.
No, but did you see one of the details about where they think that his body had traveled over 10 miles and even gone through a dam?
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Like there was no damage to the body, but it came past the dam. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I was like, it was through it, not past it, but through it. That's what sorry, it must have cut out. I didn't catch that part.
Yeah. No, I
apologies, people, for rehashing.
April 2009. Gannon is okay. So Gannon now for 12 years has been investigating this stuff. He is putting out a book. All of a sudden, while he's investigating the case of Daniel Zamlen, Zamlen, in St. Paul, Minnesota, he's accused of sexual assault by a college student, that he assaulted her in his car. This high profile, everybody's looking at this guy because they want to debunk him. New York City detective takes time out from investigating another smiley face to do this to a girl. It's dropped, insufficient evidence. But Craig, I say message delivered, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're getting too close. And
stop.
Yeah, the X-Files. Yeah, the X-Files, movie has one of the best things. It's like, somebody knows I'm talking to you. What was it this time? Kitty porn again?
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's the same thing. It's like they've got an MO. It's like, they roll out, and they're going to roll out these things to discredit the people. And that makes me wonder. It's like I think that's part of the one, like why I always kept rolling back to where I feel in my gut, this feels more like it's a program related than just
Yeah.
random people driving around, like truck drivers, just randomly stopping in at some town and picking out a victim and taking them to the body of the water. This feels more like, it just feels like more like it's trying to make it seem random than
Mhm.
it's just random selection. Like this is just one of like, okay, make sure that you make it, don't make it look obvious.
So that really makes a case then that the smiley faces may just be so ubiquitous, or people go after the fact to try to link them.
Yeah.
Like there aren't like carbon dating or, like how old is the graffiti? How fresh is the graffiti? There are messages too, and I don't want to go into them because I didn't find them in enough pieces of research to corroborate them.
Yep.
But about vans and God and blood prices, blood, paying in blood, that kind of stuff.
And
So
that's
anyway,
kind of falls on that thing where it's just, and that'd be the easiest thing too, is to try, distract, the magician's hand thing. It's like if you
yeah,
put the pentagram next to the smiley face, all of a sudden everybody's like, ooh, satanic angle, and they go off this way. Meanwhile, like I said, it's just a nondescript government van and they're offloading another, like I said,
yeah,
spray,
yeah.
do the spray paint.
I'm with you. It's really hard to hide your 18-wheeler and go rent a van, and you're absolutely right. So Zach Marr in Boston went out to smoke and the bouncer wouldn't let him back in. So this opens up the door to bar collusion, bar owners. In some of the cases, not a high percentage, the bars are owned by people related to cops, but cops and bars and families that are in towns for a long time where people become cops, Craig, that's another ubiquitous thing. So I don't know. People at the bars don't always cooperate, but this is really bad publicity if your bar is being targeted. So you wouldn't want to be attached to that. Oh yeah, Craig, have you found more than one case of that? Because I only found one case.
No, it's just, but one, it's just like, it's kind of like how everything, all you have to do is just the one time and
Yeah.
it just goes,
Yeah.
it goes crazy. Everybody's like, they're
Yeah.
looking for that angle now. And
Yeah.
that's where it's that term muddying the waters, because
Mhm.
once it happens, it's just like, if everybody knows, if you're in a clear water and all of a sudden you step in it, it muddies the waters. That's what it is. It's just that I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like they occasionally just do something like that to detract and just send people off in a tangent, and then they miss the critical
Right on.
pieces that they could be watching.
It does skew the data. If you're looking for clusters, parallels, and patterns, it does skew it. 25-year-old William Hurley, a Navy veteran, on October 8th, 2009, goes missing outside the TD Garden. Like I said, I'm bringing this one up because there have been 4 or 5 cases outside the TD Garden where the Celtics and the Bruins play there.
Mhm.
Text his girlfriend that he's tired and she needs to pick him up. The call gets garbled and then the line goes dead. He goes to where he said he was supposed to be and he's not there. His phone is found someplace else the next morning, 6 days later. So this is a narrower time frame. 6 days later, he's found in the Charles River. Since 2009, there have been 3 other cases where people were leaving the TD Garden. Someone spiking their beer, they're cheering, and I don't know. Again, GHB in the blood. I want to get into something new here. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Uh, they are Charles. They are military industrial complex, or what we would call research one universities, major cities. They go to these. Some of them have connections. I was going to name the company and the government organization. I'm choosing not to, because we're trying to stay on as many platforms for as long
Try
as
to stay off as
possible.
many crosshairs as we can.
But 2 of these guys were connected with a government organization that has to do with bio issues, and also during when everybody had to stay home for long periods of time, there was a company that was defunded because they may have participated in what is called, I can't even tell you what it's called. It's enhancing function. But there's a technical term. God, Craig, this is just going to make our
Oh.
shows longer and more exhausting.
I know. It's. I said, how many episodes ago did I say that? Where it just this frustrates the hell out of me that we can't just talk, that we have to sit here and do these veiled things because everybody. Yeah, it's basically you're increasing the the ability of something, and when all you want to say is the actual name, and it's like I don't know. I don't understand how facts is a threat, like for these things. I mean, it's like,
and especially when you're talking about something to if not debunk it, then go, here are all the angles. And that's my whole jam. Everything I do, my writing, that's the way my brain works and why I can be exhausting to people, because I don't just see one outcome. I see all the outcomes, and then okay, so we'll keep doing what we're doing. I also wonder, and I'm thinking out loud here, I've been talking to so many colleagues because all my book reviews got taken down from over 400 book reviews got taken down from Amazon. They've ignored 3 appeal requests. Then what happened with our Montauk episode? This is happening all over the world to our colleagues. Some of the things that are being taken down, it's everyday language that's misconstrued out of context by an AI algorithm looking for keywords. Here's what I'm thinking out loud. And if any of our fellow podcasters know, they may be checking the chat room too, Craig, which is really, really hard. So many websites are not, so many YouTube channels are not putting chat anymore. I'm noticing.
Yeah, which is bad because it's one of those unless you want to have like a moderator, and then and that's not what that's the whole point is. We want people to engage. And that's the thing. So you want people to engage with us in this same thing, and that's why we feel bad that we can't actually say some of the things. I mean, there's some things already we've had to. It's not that we don't, it's not that we don't want to say them. It's just we know if we do, then you won't have the show. You're going to have to go through Facebook, or we're going to have to go through one platform only, because this one will get. Because all it takes is a couple strikes, and then.
Yeah, we got 90 days. For them not, because I had to take a special training. I mean, I jumped right on this, folks. I took a training where I had to answer a series of questions. Then I passed that. What that get you is 90 days probation. That gets you 90 days probation going through their training program. And like I said, so many of my colleagues who don't do the work that we do are doing some very spiritual work. Someone got a video taken down because they were talking about wars in the Bible. That is not topical. That is ancient. But anyway, let's keep going. Tommy Booth from Pennsylvania, January 19th, 2008. He goes missing from a bar while with 8 of his friends. 2 weeks later, he's found face down in a creek. Rigor mortis. That's recent death. Also, he died on his back, but he's found face down in the creek. The fact that he was out with 8 of his friends, folks, these are young people who go out in groups to bars and suddenly they're gone. Oftentimes they disappear toward the back where there is no CCTV cameras, typically in the back of the establishment. In the case of Tommy Booth, there were 2 smiley faces on the back wall of the bar where he disappeared from. There are also cases of interrupted calls, of people calling 911. I read one case. This is the chiller winner. 8 minutes into this very panicked call or voicemail or whatever, you hear a voice go, "Stop it." Cold, emotionless. Stop it. And then screaming begins. I'm getting chill. Like literally the hackles are going up.
And that's kind of where it's like, it seems like he was probably, that's where it almost seems like the research side. Like that kind of, like, it seems like something like a psychological torture seems to be the MO, and which would be, there's, and that's one of the things, like with a couple of shows that, I had done on serial killers too. And it's one of those, I don't know if there's been too much, if there's been too many cases. That's one of the things that would be a great, question for him, would be how many people have done like a psychological, torture before they kill.
Yeah.
Because that's one, most of one is like physical torture, they're they're brutal, they're brutalized, then, they're killed. But there's not, I don't know if there's much where it's like this line where there's the psychological side to it. Because that would be one of those, the guy's clearly freaking out, which means not being tortured, because obviously how do you get the phone? So you're not strapped to some like saw. So there's definitely some aspect where he was able to get a call out, and then to have a cold, really non-emotional thing, stop it.
Yeah.
It's that's I said, that's
right.
Yeah, and that, because back to where the guy you were talking about too, that Tommy Booth, you saw the part where it looked like his body had been staged.
Yes.
With the sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. And is this a form of jazz where you replicate and then add your own thing? That's what I think also makes it. So lest anybody think that we are talking ancient history here, post everybody staying home and watching TV, catching up on their reading and stuff. From late 2021 to 2023, there were strings of these. Toronto had a bunch. Vancouver had a bunch. What's interesting in the 2021 to 2023 cluster is it's not just Caucasians anymore. Asian, African American, Latino, you name it. Whereas the initial clusters, so are these copycats? Are these people who are watching the documentaries, reading the books,
watching the movie?
Chicago had 5 cases in 21-22, then 4 more cases March through June 2023. But Chicago crime in general has really exploded in recent years. All of the victims, though, wound up in Lady Bird Lake. That's the Austin, Texas cluster. So let me see here. 6 cases in Austin, all in Lady Bird Lake since 2022, all on Rainy Street bars. But if anybody knows Austin, that's the big popular cluster of bars on Rainy Street. So summer 2023, the Mirage Music Club, both 2 guys, both 27, 45 days apart, are found in Brooklyn near Newton Creek. So the Mirage Club is in Brooklyn, then they're found in Newton Creek. Craig, I want to use the rest of the time, and you've touched on some of this stuff, but the rest of my notes have to do with possible, what the hell could this be?
Yeah.
And I want to introduce, I'm going to try and go real careful here, but like, what the hell are we doing, really? Copycat or ritual overlap is on July 23rd of 2023 on Martha's Vineyard in the evening, a chef named Tafari Campbell died in 4 feet of water. A guy who was an avid swimmer, who was an avid boater. Does that name ring a bell for you? Whose chef he was? Tafari Campbell?
If I'm not mistaken, was it the initials BO?
Yes.
Barack Obama's?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, there you go. You did the initials, but then you said we're not going to be contained. I don't know. It's a lost cause, man.
I had to help people. People would be like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we got to say it." I mean, it's one of those. It's a well-known case, because it's like it's not some conspiracy theory of what it is. It's just his chef, died. I mean, I said you look this up. They can say this is not attributed to some conspiracy theory. This happened.
Well, yes and no.
Well, no, I'm just saying the facts are he died, so that's not some conspiracy. Yeah, so that's not the conspiracy theory that one of Barack Obama's chefs died. No. He died.
He was paddleboarding. He dies in 4 feet of water, even though his social media was full of look at me swimming, look at me boating, look at me doing all this stuff. Why do you go paddleboarding at night? Just a couple things real quick, because we can't help ourselves. There are photos recently after with band-aids on BO's fingers. Also, there is a photo. Supposedly they were out of town when it happened, but there is a photo of the daughters getting on a plane, And some people say, well, where the daughters were, probably Ma and Pa were. Anyway, why am I telling you this? Because it's 4 feet of water. This could possibly be an MO at the government level. Because in May of 1996, there was a CIA director named William Colby. And Colby really wanted to out a lot of things about the CIA in 1996. Think about this. This is Clinton. This is public apologies, Tuskegee Airmen, new era of transparency. Anyway, he drowns in a canoe on a lake near where he lives in Virginia. I found this just this morning, Craig. He had warned Senator John DeCamp, who had written about the Boys Town being a front for a lot of ugliness. He had warned him not to pursue this stuff. He said, do yourself a favor. This was prior to his death, obviously, but in fairly close proximity to his death. He said, do not look into this involving young people and horrible things and high level. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then he winds up drowning too. So, okay, we said that. One of the victims, Avin Sharma, was coming out of a BDSM bar. So there's a tangential link to kink culture. Now, people are very, it's tangential, but I'm putting it out there. So what? Okay, so since 1997, there have been 300 of these cases that fall under all the typology that we've been revisiting through cases and generally. What do the police and the FBI say? Here's what they say, folks. Accidental drowning due to alcohol, unfamiliar environments, and impaired judgment. In 2008, 11 years after all of this started, the FBI issued a statement that said nothing to see. And, Craig, next week I'm doing a solo show, an update on disclosure. And of course, I watch these House hearings on disclosure, and they talk to whistleblowers and all this kind of stuff. There are so many parallels in the sense of nothing to see, nothing to see. I assure you, there's nothing to see. Arrow spent all that money, millions of dollars, and said, we find no evidence, blah, blah, blah. NASA, all these people. It's interesting. Guys, definitely tune in next week. There's a lot of cool stuff. There was just a hearing yesterday that was amazing. I'm even rethinking Lou Elizondo, who I've been skeptical of. But he did a really good job.
Is that the one about the USOs?
And that's part of it. They do talk about the USOs. Absolutely. They have some crazy footage. So tune in next week, folks. I think you'll dig it. Smiley Grace Fafiti is a coincidence. It's a common simple. Forensic experts say that the cases lack definitive evidence of murder. That's what you talked about, Craig. Like what's been going on 30, 40 days because the bodies don't.
Yeah. And Joseph, I wish I had that clip to play right now because that is actually true.
Oh, right on. Yeah, there you go. Let's see. So the forensic experts, too, are saying that all the markers are consistent with accidental drowning, but they're not. If they've been missing for 30, 40 days, and where the hell were they? Yeah, so
that's the thing is because the bodies after 30, 40 days, those are going to be massively decomposed.
Yeah, they're going to be bloated. They're going to,
Yeah, that was part of the case. Like they said a lot of these things where what the official story is and what you're actually seeing, they're not lining up. And that's the part where it's weird. It's so that they're onto something because of the fact that's the big thing. It's like it's the what is what is it? Because we don't know. It's like there's that mystery thing. What are being done to these guys? Because they're not showing, arms aren't lopped off. They're not, souvenirs aren't being taken from, that I know that they've released. I mean, there's not been anything like where they're missing ear, every single one's missing an ear or everyone's missing a pinky or something like, that's
what's missing, in a number of cases, one shoe.
The one shoe.
And that has a parallel with missing 411.
Mm-hmm.
And who just randomly loses their shoe.
Yeah, so that would be, so would that be the call, the calling card, and that would be exactly right there. That would be one of the connecting things. I missed that part too about the shoes.
That was
how I missed that part, I don't know, but hey.
Well, because I have actually 2 books that I read in 2019.
I'm
so I
willing
went
to
back
admit
and-
my failure. I
No,
don't know how I
went
missed the
back
shoe
and
part.
looked
That's
at my
big.
notes. I went back and looked at my notes, and I also did a disclaimer that some of these books are written under pseudonyms. They're not of a high quality. Okay. So is this a cover-up? It could be. Is it an MK type program? I'm with you, Craig. Psychic experiments, psychic driving, embarrassed cops. That was another thing. It's very interesting, folks. A little tangential, but we're doing okay here on time. There are a number, and we've talked about them on this show, and the people in the chat room have talked about them. There are a number of Congress people who are kind of clowns, and they get all the press, and they yell and they scream, and they're kind of classless, and they go to the theater and fondle people. All this stuff happens. They're kind of nutty. I'm watching 11 people who are considered intelligent. This one dude, Congressman Briggs, is talking about why the government doesn't talk about the cases that we don't know what they are, the UAPs that we just don't know, a fairly high percentage, okay? Even in the Arrow report, 40% of them they couldn't explain. And he's talking about Lacanian theory, all this advanced philosophy. We do not see these serious, intelligent, considered people on TV. And it's a shame. It's a shame. I just want to say that.
No,
So,
and that's for me. It's like I said, I think we've talked about this before too. It's like for me, one of the biggest things is I honestly think a lot of the stuff like the UFO and the USO things, there's a really good chance that this is like the underwater ones, DARPA all the way, that these are DARPA projects.
Could be.
That, I said and that's part of the reason why nobody's talking about it is one, it's because it's top secret and you can't, it's like, because they're developing an underwater drone for combat. And so that's why it flies around. And so we, and of course they're like, well, why wouldn't a Navy? Because they're not going to tell blah 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 Bob, the captain of the USS, that we've got this underwater drone we're testing. No, all he's going to be is, sir, we got something on the radar. What the hell is it? I don't know. Boop, 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 as it flies past the boat.
And in a way, it's ideal. I don't know if I subscribe to that or not. Everybody tune in with the show, but I will definitely, Craig will definitely say that. And it was interesting because you and I have looked at stuff, and there is some evidence through Stephen Greer, who's sketchy, but that the Tic Tac is domestic. It's U.S. And they came up in the hearing yesterday, and they said, I was even told by these people that the Tic Tac was domestic. But maybe it is. Maybe it is domestic. So we don't know. But, are the cops just embarrassed? 300 young men died under admittedly mysterious circumstances. You just don't get drunk and fall in the water all the time. There are some statistics of that, of drownings in these areas. Craig, also, I've been meaning to, and it's been going out of my mind. We're going to try really hard, folks, to give you the total picture of anything we mentioned. Walks, his data has gotten distorted, if not thrown out, because he was like managing director or marketing director of this company. And the algorithms, as we know, when you advertise a business or a podcast or something, they want you to pay. So they suppress you in the algorithm. But he got so many hits about his alleged
encounter.
Is that the word? That that it skewed the data because the company got a huge bump because people were like, oh, who's this dude? And they saw his other stuff that had been suppressed. So I just wanted to say that. Christy Peel, this is an interesting data point, was on Coast to Coast AM in 2008 talking about the smiley face murders. And shortly thereafter, Craig, she shut down her blog, walked away, and will not talk about this phenomena at all.
Yeah, that's usually, that usually means somebody came and had a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually when you, because like it'd be like this guy, because he's obviously after like the attention, like I said, he wants to be. I don't want to say his name because he gets all butthurt if anybody talks about his name or his work into. He's a well-known person in the paranormal and investigation thing. He's done some documentaries, and if you ever mention his name, he gets litigious. And so
Really?
yes, it happens to kind of coincide with the little green men up in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
yes. The name of the town starts with an H. You don't want it,
Yep.
so it's one of those things. So there's like people like this, and you got to be careful. But it's just one of those. I don't know. It'd be like if he just suddenly just dropped off, like quit doing it.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
something. Somebody came talk to him because
Right.
there's no way he's just walking away from his baby, everything that he's building up and stuff. And that's kind of like what he was saying about her. It's like
Yeah.
for her to just suddenly just go poof, off the face of the map. That usually means that you got a visit from, whether you want to call it the little, Men in Black, whoever. It's
Right.
just somebody came and had a chat of why this is an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah. Does this person, Craig, have a whole series of
Mhm.
documentaries?
Yes.
Yeah. Here's my rating on that. Having been very close to a lot of the subjects that they cover in their larger research.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have drank the Flavor Aid on those people.
Yeah, and
And
that's one of
dude,
those things. It's just, I know it's like the minute you say his name or mention the documentary, it just goes on. It goes on the radar, and then it's just it's one of those things. It's just for everybody's benefit. If you just don't, just leave it alone.
yeah, and it's not worth your time. It's
Yeah.
it's really not worth your time. So here's interesting. Just a couple of cultural things, real quick. Alan Moore in The Watchmen has a Uber villain called the Comedian, and the smiley face is part
Smiley.
of the
Yep.
comedian's Uber. Also, Fight Club, which who was it? I forget his name. Oh dang. Hold on just 1 second. What the heck is his name? Oh, Moskowitz. Congressman Moskowitz was talking about the UFO stuff, and everybody's like, we can only talk about that in private session. We can only talk about that in private session. We can only talk about that in private session. And he goes, it's like Fight Club, man. You can't talk about Fight Club unless there's a Fight Club. And that was a cool reference. But in Fight Club, the smiley face is hidden. You have to find it, but there's a smiley face.
Wouldn't that show like what you've talked about before about the predictive, programming?
Oh, yes. Well, yeah.
Where it's one, because that's always been the theory out there. It's like for some of these behind the scenes thing, it's like in order for them to do it, they have to announce that they're doing it, and it has to be talked about in some way. Which is, for me, it's weird. Is how you want to remain secret, but you have to talk about it in order for it to take place. So it's one of those. It's like, who do you have to announce it to? It's like, is there something behind the scenes where if you don't announce it, it can't become an official act? I don't know how that works, but yeah, so it'd be kind of funny if, funny's a terrible way to put it, but it'd be really interesting if if you start seeing like in some of the movies and stuff, where if you see something like that and then like a scene or so afterwards, something happens.
Yeah. And you can also use it to muddy the waters, right? So a lot of the, like you said, now because there have been films and such about the smiley face killers, when you do the research, you can't tell what's fact, what's fiction. You came up with such a good idea today to talk about how the web is just flooded with AI junk and false information.
And I'm going to give credit. There's her name's Ashley Hill. She's one of the friends. She's Ryan Trimbley. It's like it's a friend of a friend type thing. We had her on the show too. She brought that question up, and it's like I saw that, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one." And then that's when I mentioned it to you. It's like, "What about this?" And so, yeah, we're gonna do a show on it.
Yeah, it's very topical. AI is populating the internet at 8 times the rate of humans right now. And I bet you when we do that show in the middle of December, that number will have gone way up.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're looking at. The AI, half the time you go, is that a picture of a real person or is that AI or?
Oh, they're making stuff like somebody just did a video, and they took from when Joe Rogan interviewed Donald Trump. They took that video and they completely edited parts of it to show Donald Trump telling Joe Rogan that Elon was from another planet and that they do this. And they took all these clips. And when you actually watch it, it actually looks like he's like, yeah. And then when the aliens come in, the beam comes in. He's saying all this stuff, and you wouldn't really be able to tell that this wasn't actually the narrative that they were discussing. And that's how these things they're getting really scary, is because, like I said, those are AI generate. These are ones that are being created, and people are making such good, these good fakes, that there's going to be a lot of people that, if you don't do your research, you're going to fall for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's this.
Yeah, very much so. So, guys, Craig and I both agree that there's probably nothing to see here, but it's interesting. There's an author named William Ramsey, and just last year he put out a book on this. So it's very, very topical, and it goes into a little bit of the government kind of stuff. According to his research, there is a group called the Order of the Nine Angles. Now, this Order of the Nine Angles started in England, migrated to the United States. They use the smiley face. There's also the Church of Set, who's Michael Aquino. We did an episode on Project Monarch. If that remains up, it will be a miracle.
Yeah.
So you might want to get it, download it,
watch it now,
do something. Yeah. Save it as a souvenir. Sacrifice lesser men to create a Superman as part of initiation. Now, this is the Order of the Nine Angles. Let me read that again, Craig. Sacrifice lesser men to create a superhuman as part of initiation, meaning the group, the Order of the Nine Angles, is trying to create an Ubermensch, a Superman. And these lesser people have to be sacrificed. As a matter of fact, this guy, William Ramsey, has got his hands on a how-to manual. Go to another city, avoid CCTV, do this, do that. Blah, blah. So could it be? It's really interesting because I just watched The Sons of Sam, and this is the work of Maurice Terry. Maurice Terry's work is all over the smiley face killer work, because he had ideas about the Process Church, Roger de Grimston, ties with Manson. We know through our MK Ultra work, Craig, that they were dosing people in San Francisco in Haight-Ashbury, the CIA were. We know about Edward Arsenal in Maryland, and we know about Sidney Gottlieb dosing even their own people. And also an interesting thing from Edward Arsenal, they were having prostitutes dose military guys in bars with LSD. So even though all these dots are there, and Joe Redmiles and I are both reading Maury Terry's book, Joe for the second time, The Ultimate Evil. Is it just very sexy, this whole satanic cult, right? There were the satanic panics in the 1980s having to do with D&D and ritual killings. The Manson connection, Anton LaVey. Yeah, go ahead.
That's satanic.
Oh,
that was that was part of it too, because it's these are supposedly the Jewish symbol for 6, so it's 666.
Yeah.
And not the monster claw, so of course it's 3, so it's the mocking of the so the monster. There's a video you can watch on YouTube, you look it up, and it's a lady breaks down the entire thing of how this is product to deceive us all to fall in love with the devil. I'm like, no, it just keeps me awake, and I like the ultra sunrise flavor.
Plus, I actually think that subliminal messaging is much more powerful than non-subliminal, than being totally obvious, right? Like Satan's blood. Oh, this must be turning people into zombies. No, they probably would have called it something else, like Flowers of the Moon or something. But it would.
They're not going to be as blatant as the Stranger Things. It's just,
I'm gonna
Hellfire Club.
I'm going to put a theory out there, Craig. That's my theory. Do you remember, it was probably 3 years ago, maybe 4, where there was all this CCTV or phone footage of somebody would be walking down the street and someone in a hoodie would approach them and punch them in the face. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
Audience, if you remember that, chat room folks, are Mysterios, I believe we call you.
Yes, Mysterios.
What if these are gang initiations, Craig?
Yeah, it would.
Initiations.
It would make more sense than just a random, just walking up and punching somebody. I mean, because it's like, why did Rick Moranis have to get punched? type thing. It's these type of things. It's like, why, just why such a random act? And it's, I would be more willing to jump on the thing that this had to do with some initiation type thing over just,
That's what it feels
this will be funny. Yeah. Cause it's,
yeah. Here's a little factoid, and I'm connecting dots here. I mentioned that Gannon co-authored a book. He co-authored it with Dr. Lee Gilbertson. Dr. Lee Gilbertson was out of St. Cloud University, but he's an expert on domestic terror and gangs.
Yeah.
So is that a clue that's why this guy is involved? Because you certainly don't. People are already in a panic about gangs and what they're doing. And I happen to live in a gang drug corridor. We're just part of it. So I hear stories of, because I have friends who are connected to the police and so on and so forth. I hear stories of really nutty crap that goes on. I mean, the getting rid of people is horrific. There was a documentary done on that. Northern California. There's a well-known, like, with the pot grows up there. That's one of those same things where it's just triangle.
Yeah, where you go up there, and the guy actually went up there, and it was a pretty risky documentary. I mean, he actually went up there and tried to talk to people, and it's the same thing. It's just where people go, people disappear.
Yeah. I have another theory. Because this is something that I write about in my fiction quite a bit. And Joe Red Miles will know, and anybody else who knows the Son of Sam case, there was one of the girls was filmed when she was killed. And supposedly the video went to the highest bidder. So on the dark web, on the deep web, there are people that will pay a lot of money. There's a video that a certain talk show host that everybody came out against during when we all stayed at home, because supposedly she was a bully and she wore a certain sweatshirt while we were all staying home, and it had to do with a fairly famous Politico who did something really ugly, and there's video of it. Maybe what's going on in that 30 to 40 days is being broadcast, especially 21 to 2023 cluster. I just put that out there. There are sick people out there. I don't know.
No. The fact you just said that just made me think. Wouldn't that help with how that guy was on the phone call?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make a better case for that? Because one, if you've got somebody in research saying, why would you have access to a phone? Why would you let the guy go on like that for a while and then just, that's enough, stop it? Just wouldn't that make more of the case of, like, because that's a well-known dark web thing, the snuff film.
Yeah.
And these things, and is the one for everybody that, at the end of the night, for everybody to get some sleep too. It's just, there's a whole culture that actually pays to watch this stuff happen live. There's there's something where this is well known, where it's broadcast. You get on these channels and you can watch this stuff happen live. So it's kind of like what happened in Saw.
Yeah,
that stuff happens in real time.
Right.
And so, now that you said that, that would make a little more sense why the guy would be allowed to make, like, the phone call and do this stuff, because that would be you would get the raw emotion, which would be what these viewers would be wanting to see.
Right. And if anybody is actually there on scene, that ties to something that is really verboten. As a matter of fact, almost all of the training questions for YouTube were about a certain having to do with a certain popular food that you can get different toppings on. I don't know. This sucks. Okay, this sucks. This is what I want.
With a swinging thing that's an offense.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh, the 50th anniversary of Young Frankenstein's coming on. Sedative, give him a sedative. You know, on
Yes.
the nosy. Yeah, we're playing charades now, folks. So, which is really going to stink for our radio audience, Dirt Radio.
I think they'll get it.
10 p.m. EST. This is what I want to close with, and then what we're really going to close with is our new outro. So
Yes.
please linger
Stay
in the chat
yeah.
room. Let us know what you think. The victims' families are so frustrated because they believe they've been stonewalled. They believe that they've been ignored. And in the past, in serial killer cases, prostitutes, other people, it's been accused nobody cares. And that's why they're the target. Nobody cares. They have no family. They're disposable. These are the cream of the crop, young males, not just white anymore, athletic, accomplished at major universities, and still they're being stonewalled. There's just no closure.
Kind of real quick. That kind of goes back to what you were just saying. After a while, if you keep watching the same thing over and over again, you get bored.
Yeah.
You need something new.
Yeah.
And so what if that's what it is? It's like, you're like, no, I'm tired of the, tired of the normal. It's like, let's change it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's actually that would make sense, because it's just, like I said, it's not like these guys have been physically tortured. They're just, I would be more apt that they probably, it was all psychological.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed to. So, folks, watch those MK Ultra episodes. If we think of other ones that may go bye-bye, we'll let you know. But if you
think of something else, there's going to be somebody coming up here in a second that's going to ask you a question, and you need to follow that direction. Yes, follow that direction. So, thank you for turning in for the 50th anniversary, as Joey says, the 50th episode. But like I said, everybody, like, share, please subscribe, bring a friend, keep it going, keep the thing growing. Like I said, we appreciate everybody right there. So definitely sit back, enjoy. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think. So watch the replay again so you can actually see the intro, and we're also going to post it up there too, so you guys can see that as well.
Yes, I will tomorrow. I will put both of them on YouTube. So just look in the video section at Every Day is a Story or Joey Media's YouTube. And I'll eventually put them on Facebook too. I'm going to wait for now. So good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
And here's the new outro.
Do you have a sinister mystery in mind? Let us know by sending us a DM or comment in the chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Till next time, stay mysterious.